Welcome to Acera's new employee slash mid-career webinar. In this webinar, we're assuming that you are either new or you're somewhere in the middle of your career, hence the name of the webinar. So the bottom line there is you're not yet near retirement, which is a good thing because it means that you still have plenty of time to plan for retirement. So in this webinar, I'm going to tell you all the things that you might want to know about doing that planning for retirement. And since you're curious enough about retirement planning to watch this, you probably have some questions. Questions like, what do I need to know about my pension? What do I need to do, if anything? And yeah, do I need to do anything? And if so, what do I need to do? So I have arranged the answers to your questions because I've been doing this for a while, so I kind of can anticipate what you're going to ask about. I've arranged the answers to your questions in the form of this checklist. So we're going to talk about understanding some retirement basics. I will help you understand a little bit of pension math, including the retirement formula that we use to calculate your pension when you finally retire. We'll talk a little bit as part of that discussion about purchasing service credit, and that will increase your retirement benefit when you go to retire. I will help you get a pension estimate. I'll show you how to do that. It'll help you understand eligibility for retirement, like when you can actually retire, when you become eligible. I'll talk a little bit about some additional benefits that we offer, including death benefits and healthcare benefits. I will talk about designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries for death benefits. And I will help you understand career planning options. And what I mean by that is whether you're going to work the rest of your career in your current job. Or what are your options if you should ever leave your job and you want to go try something else? What are your options in regards to Acera? So we'll talk about career planning. And then we will talk about making a retirement planning picture. And what I mean by that is just getting a little window into the future, looking at your potential income in retirement, including your Acera pension that we're going to talk a lot about, and figuring out how to get pointed in the trajectory of having adequate income when you retire. And it's actually that idea can feel stressful, but it's actually not that complicated. So we'll talk about that. And as part of that discussion, like I was saying earlier, we will have a representative from the county's deferred compensation program come in and tell you about starting a 457B account, which is kind of like a 401k, but for government workers. And you all have access to save additional money toward retirement in one of those 457B accounts. And yeah, so that's about the extent of what we're talking about. This will go from about 9 to about 11:15, and then at 11:15, the deferred compensation expert will come in and talk for 30 to 45 minutes about 457B accounts. Okay, so that's what to expect. Let's jump right in. Let me first item on your checklist, let me first help you understand some retirement basics. And I'll start at the beginning of the story because you're a new employee or you're in your mid-career. Maybe you haven't heard one of these presentations before. You don't know that much, and that's perfect because I'm going to tell you everything you might want to know. First of all, who is Acera? Well, in one sense, Acera is this acronym, the Alameda County Employees Retirement Association. But the who of Acera, first off, is the people that work at Acera. We're all county employees. Our entire job is to provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to our members. And you are members of Acera. So you are also the part of the who that is Acera. And you're a member of Acera because of the position that you work in and who you work for. You work currently full-time, or at some point in the past you worked full-time. Maybe you don't work full-time anymore, but you worked full-time at some point in a retirement eligible position for one of our 6 participating employers. These are the 6 public agencies in Alameda County that use Acera to provide pension benefits, retirement benefits to their employees. And if you work for one of those employers and you work in that full-time retirement eligible position, you automatically become an Acera member. And in fact, your membership is mandatory. So it's automatic and mandatory. And as an Acera member, with each paycheck, you make a contribution to Acera's fund, and that's called your employee contribution. And I'll show you a screenshot of your pay stub. Well, this is a screenshot of a county pay stub. If you work for one of the other 5 employers, it might look a little bit different. It probably will. But in any case, on your pay stub, in the before tax deductions column, you will see a line that says something like retirement, and maybe it will say your tier. I'll talk about what your tier means in just a minute. And you'll see some money coming out of this paycheck, and that money goes into Acera's fund with every time you get paid. And also, every time that happens, your employer is making a contribution to Acera's fund on your behalf. And we don't want that money to just sit around and collect dust. What we do is we invest that money in a diverse portfolio all over the world, and we earn a lot of interest on those investments. And so it's these 3 sources of income, you contributing to the fund through your employee contributions, your employer contributing, and the earnings on our investments that give us this big pot of money that we call Acera's fund. So why are we collecting and earning all this money? What are we going to do with that money? What is this all for? Well, meanwhile, you are working in your retirement eligible position. And as you're doing that throughout your entire career, you're earning credit toward retirement. At some point in the future, you're going to stop earning credit toward retirement and you're going to retire. And you're going to start collecting the retirement that you've been earning throughout your entire career in the form of a monthly retirement allowance for the rest of your life. It gets paid on the last business day of the month, every month for the rest of your life. You cannot outlive your retirement allowance. So it's a guaranteed source of income that you can plan on. You can get estimates on what it's going to be that are very precise, looking into the future. And then when it comes time, you're going to get paid that every month for the rest of your life. It's a really powerful tool to provide income to you in retirement. And you'll hear me talk about throughout the presentation monthly retirement allowance, retirement benefit, pension benefit, pension allowance. These are all synonymous terms for this same concept that you're getting a monthly payment every month for the rest of your life that you earned. Pensions are special. And in one of the ways that they're special is that when you go to retire, so you're going to be earning that retirement throughout your entire career. You're going to be paying into Acera throughout your entire career. And then you retire. Within your first 3 to 5 years of retirement, we're going to give you all that money back and all the interest that has been accruing on that money. You're going to get all of it back in the form of that monthly retirement allowance for the rest of your life. So what happens after that? Well, like I said, it's a lifetime retirement allowance, so we're just going to keep paying you every month, even though we already gave you all your money back. How can we do that? Well, it's the employer contributions that pay for part of it, but really it's the investment earnings that pay for 3/4 of your lifetime pension. And it's kind of an amazing thing because you get all your money back in the first 3 to 5 years, and then after that, it's almost like this amazing bonus that you get, this guaranteed payment that you get every month for the rest of your life that you can count on. But it's not really a bonus because we've been investing your money and you've deferred some of your compensation. Like we've taken some money out of your paycheck and invested it, and that's what helps us provide you this constant stream of income throughout the rest of your life. So that's how pensions are special. Okay, let me show you this kind of overview of some of the milestones you can expect to encounter in your membership with Acera. And this will provide some context for some of the more detailed discussions that we're going to have about how Acera works as we go along. Okay, so first off, you have your date of hire. Okay, this is your first day that they told you to show up to work in that full-time retirement eligible position. Now, maybe you started out part-time or working for a temporary agency or under contract. So those don't really count toward this. What this is your first day working in that full-time retirement eligible position. Okay, then what happens for most of our employers is 2 weeks goes by, and the first day of your second pay period is your first day of Acera membership, also known as your date of Acera entry, or your Acera date of entry. And this is the day when you start earning credit toward retirement. Okay, now, 2 of our employers, I think Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District and the Housing Authority, There's no 2 week lag. The Acera entry date is the date of hire in the full-time retirement eligible position. But for everyone else, it's the first day of the second pay period. Okay, now you're an Acera member, you're earning credit toward retirement. What happens now? Well, 5 years goes by, assuming that you maintain full-time status. So if you work 5 years full-time, you become vested in the retirement system, or the equivalent of 5 full-time years. If you go on a half-time and you work 10 years, well, that would be the equivalent of 5 full-time years. Once you earn 5 years of service credit, basically, and I'll tell you what that means in just a minute, you are considered vested in the retirement system. And vesting kind of just means guaranteed. It's kind of a loose term, but what happens at 5 years is you start being able to access some of the guaranteed benefits, which is why they call that they kind of mark the 5 years as when you're vested in the retirement system. You're guaranteed the guaranteed benefits, the vested benefits at 5 years. Okay. So then after that, the next milestone at some point in the future, through some combination of your years of service credit and your age, you become eligible to retire. There's a few different combinations that will get you there, so it'll be a little bit different date for everyone. I'll show you what those combinations are a little bit later. But this is the first day that you could retire if you wanted to. Now, many people don't. You become eligible to retire and they just keep working and earning more and more credit toward retirement to get that retirement allowance higher and higher. Because the more credit you earn toward retirement, the higher your retirement allowance is going to be. You have control over what that retirement allowance is going to be. And I'll show you how to maximize that in just a few minutes. Okay, so this is the first day that you could retire. Then the next milestone is your termination date. This is your last day on payroll with your employer. Now, many people who work throughout their entire career and retire immediately, they will go straight into retirement, and their first day of retirement will be the next day after their last day of work. Sometimes that's not your plan. That's totally fine. Sometimes there's a big gap here because you could leave your job and you could defer your retirement to a later date. That will be one of your 3 options, which I'll talk about in the second half of the presentation. Should you leave and not go immediately into retirement? That's totally fine. So sometimes these are 2 consecutive dates, sometimes not. Okay, but your termination date is the day that you stop earning credit toward retirement because you've stopped working your job. And the day that you retire is the day that you start collecting the retirement that you've earned. And you'll collect that retirement that you've earned every month for the rest of your life until your death. And that's when your retirement payments stop. There's one more milestone on the chart, and that is because at the time of retirement, you have the opportunity to name beneficiaries for a continuing payment after your death, known as a continuance. And so your beneficiaries in most cases could get a lifetime continuance, at which case it's when your beneficiary dies that their lifetime payments would stop. And that would conclude us paying out the benefits to you that we owe you that you've earned. Okay. One more quick word about vesting. Like I said, it happens at 5 years of service credit and then includes reciprocal service credit. Reciprocity, you may have heard this term, maybe you haven't heard about this idea, is you can link different retirement systems in California together and you get some combined advantages. One of those advantages is that if you earn service credit in 2 different systems, you link them together, that gets you over the 5-year mark for the vesting. It also helps you out with retirement eligibility. I'll talk about reciprocity in detail in the second half of the presentation. But if you already know what that is, like let's say that you work over in Contra Costa County for 3 years, you come over to Alameda County, work for 2 years. If you link the retirement systems together, the combined 5 years gets you over the 5-year mark to be vested in the retirement system. And the guarantee, I said vesting means guaranteed, vested means guaranteed. The guarantee is from state law. State law tells us how to run Acera, how to run the retirement system, how to calculate benefits, how to pay out benefits. It tells us how to run everything at Acera. And that is what guarantees you that lifetime benefit. And the guaranteed benefits are the monthly retirement allowance for the rest of your life, an annual cost of living adjustment to your retirement allowance, which is a percentage increase every year in retirement, a $1,000 lump sum death benefit, Those are the vested benefits. And then there are some other death benefits available based on different scenarios. Once you retire, at the time of retirement, you can select different options for death benefits for your beneficiaries, but you don't really have to worry about that right now. Okay, let me tell you about your tier, sticking with the topic of pension basics, because this is something that it's really good to know which tier you're in, because that will help you understand which some of the rules at Acera apply to you. Some of them are a little bit different. It depends on which tier you're in. Which tier you're in depends on when you entered Acera. Okay, so first off, to figure out which one of these timelines to look at, if you're a safety member, you're going to look at the bottom timeline. And a safety member is a sheriff's deputy or a probation officer. There may be other sworn officers that I'm not aware of, but all of those sworn officers are safety members. Now, if you're not a safety member, you are a general member. And if you're a general member, you're going to look at the top timeline. Unless you're a general member who works for the housing authority, then you look at this timeline. Or if you're a general member who works for Livermore Area Recreation and Park District, I think it's singular, you look at the third timeline down. The way this works is if you entered Acera before the cutoff for each one of the ends of the tiers, that puts you in the earlier tier. So if you were a general member, you entered Acera before July 1st, 1983, that would put you in tier 1. If you entered Acera July 1st, 1983, all the way up to December 31st, 2012, that would put you in tier 2. If you entered Acera January 1st, 2013 and beyond, that would put you in tier 4. And that is the case with every one of the timelines, the January 1st, 2013. And that's because in 2012, the state passed a pension reform act that created tier 4 for all of the county pension systems. So that's why tier 4 started on January 1st, 2013. Now you'll see the Housing Authority has a different cutoff date for tier 1. LARPD does not have tier 2, they have tier 3, and there's a different cutoff date for tier 1. And the safety members have 3 different tier 2s. And if you entered Acera October 17th, 2010 to December 31st, 2012, you had a choice between tier 2C and tier 2D. And that choice was within the first 45 days of your safety membership. Now, if you don't remember which choice you made, you can log into your account on our website. And this actually goes for everyone. If you want to verify which tier you're in, you can log into your account on our website. You just go to acera.org and you click the login button and you can log into your account. Now, if you've never done that, you're going to have to answer a few security questions to create a login, create a username and password, and prove who you are. But then once you get in there, you will find that your pension data is waiting there for you because we have all of it in our pension database that this member portal connects you with. And you'll see your date of entry, you'll see your tier in there. And you'll see a lot of other stuff. I'll show you some screenshots of that in a little bit. So that's how your tier works. One more thing about tiers is that if you have reciprocity with another California public pension system and you started in that pension system before the cutoff date for one of these tiers, that could put you in an earlier tier. And if you want more information about that, you can go to acera.org/tiers, and it will tell you more about getting into an earlier tier if you weren't already put in the earlier tier and you have that reciprocal service. Okay, so I'm going to show you this slide right now to provide some context for this greater discussion that we're going to have over the course of this webinar. Kind of why we're talking about all this at this point in your career, because you're a new employee or you're in the middle of your career, and this is the perfect moment to talk about retirement planning and kind of looking into the future a little bit. So just to give you a little window into the future, okay, imagine 10, 20, 30, 35, 40 years from now, you retire, you're going to need some income to pay for your life in retirement because you're going to no longer be working and receiving a paycheck. And that income can come from a few different sources. Your ACERA monthly pension, Social Security, and anything beyond that would be your own personal savings and investments. So these are the three places that you will receive income in retirement. And what financial planners will tell you is that you're going to need to have, through a combination of these things, you're going to need to get paid about 80%, at least 80% of your working salary in order to maintain your standard of living in retirement that you were enjoying before retirement. So since if retirement is a ways away, that can sound kind of onerous. But like I was saying earlier, it's actually not that hard to get pointed in the trajectory of 80%, what they call income replacement in retirement. And I'll show you exactly how to do that. So I just wanted to introduce this slide right now. What I'm going to do is tell you a lot about the ACERA monthly pension. And then we will start talking about making a retirement planning picture. And we'll talk a little bit about getting an estimate from Social Security and how to figure out how much additional to save if you need to save anything additional in order to get pointed in that 80% income replacement trajectory. And we're going to just use some online tools to do that, and you'll see it's actually not that hard. Okay, so we will revisit this slide a little bit later after we're done talking about the ACERA monthly pension. So to tell you more about the ACERA monthly pension, let me help you understand some pension math a little bit. Okay. And it's not that much. It's actually pretty basic. It's this one multiplication. So if you don't enjoy math, it's just this one thing. And the reason I'm telling you about this now is because if you understand how we calculate each one of these three factors, it will help you maximize this monthly retirement allowance for life. And it's good to know how these three things work earlier in your career, and that gives you more time to maximize these things. Okay. So when you go to retire, we're going to do this calculation for you. And that will determine what your monthly retirement allowance for life is going to be. Your pension allowance, your pension benefit, like I said, these are all synonymous terms for this monthly payment you receive every month for the rest of your life. Okay. In retirement, you are going to get from ACERA a percentage of your highest salary for each year of service that you work. This sentence is telling you in English what this multiplication is doing. Okay. Let me add some numbers into the equation, and I think it will really illuminate this a lot more easily. So let's say, for example, that the percentage of your highest salary that you are going to get for each year of service is 2%. Exactly, 2.00%. And let's also add another number. Let's say that you work full-time in your retirement eligible position for 20 years. So you earn exactly 20 years of service credit. Or maybe you work 18 years full-time and then you work 4 more years half-time. That gets you up to the 20 years. Okay, but let's say that you earn exactly 20 years of service credit. What that means is your retirement allowance, what you're going to get from ACERA, is 2% of your highest salary for each individual one of those 20 years of service. So if we line all those up side by side, 2% plus 2% plus 2% plus 2%, 20 times 2% of your salary, we're basically multiplying 2% times 20. Okay, that's going to equal 40% of your salary. So your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of your highest average monthly salary, basically your average monthly working salary, but at the highest point in your career. Just to finish out the example, let's say that before retirement, your highest average monthly salary was $5,000. You were making that on average per month, $5,000. Well, you can see where this is going. Your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of that. 40% of 5,000 is 2,000. So what the bottom line here is, the reason I'm telling you this right now as a new employee or in the middle of your career is that the higher each one of these numbers are, because this is a multiplication, the higher the age factor percentage by retiring at an older age, older and older age, the higher the years of service credit by working longer, and the higher the salary that you earn by getting raises or getting cost of living increases or even getting promoted into higher positions, um, that will equal a higher monthly retirement allowance for the rest of your life. So the way to maximize your monthly retirement allowance is to maximize each one of these three numbers. So let me tell you in detail how each one of these three numbers are calculated, and that will help you maximize um, your retirement allowance. So first off, I'll tell you how to maximize the age factor percentage, how it works. And the question that I'll ask is, what percentage of your highest salary will you get for each year of service? Because the 2% I gave you was just an example. Okay. Let's figure this out. How do we determine what age factor percentage you're going to get for each year of service? What percentage of your salary you're going to get for each year of service? We're going to use this chart. This chart has these age factor percentages, and these are written in the law for your tier. So what you're going to look at is just the column for your tier. If you're a general tier 4 member, you just look at this column, you forget about all the other columns, etc. If whichever tier you're in, you just look at that one column. Now, you'll note, okay, and the way this works is, let's say that you're a general tier 4 member and you retire at age 65. Well, we're going to need to do this calculation for you, and we're going to need to fill in what this age factor percentage is. So we're going to look at your situation when you're retiring, and we're going to say you're a general tier 4 member, you're retiring at age 65. On the chart, those intersect at 2.30%. So you will get 2.30% of your highest average salary for each year of service that you work. That's what we'll put in the formula for you. And you'll notice that the percentages get higher and higher the older you are when you retire, up to a maximum. For each one of the tiers, there's a maximum age factor percentage you can get. It's denoted by the blue box. For general tier 4, it's 2.50% at age 67. So if you retire older than that, at 68 or 69 or 70, you would still get the 2.50%. Okay. Another thing about this chart that you may notice is I skipped a bunch of the ages, and that is because there's actually an incremental increase with every quarter year that you age, and it's based on your birthday. So if your birthday is January 15th, you age a quarter. April 15th, if you pass that day and don't retire, you get another quarter older. There's actually an incremental percentage increase. July 15th, you pass that and don't retire. October 15th, you pass that date and don't retire. You keep going up one notch in the age factor percentage chart. So there's actually, if this were the full chart, it would say like 52, 52 and a quarter, 52 and a half, 52 and 3/4, 53, and so on and so forth. But there's so many incremental increases, they don't all fit on the slide. If you enjoy percentages and math and you want to see what all those are, we have them posted out on our website at acera.org/age. But otherwise, that's a lot of information to throw at you as a new employee or somebody in your mid-career. You don't have to really remember exactly this. Just remember, like, we're using this age factor chart, and kind of the bottom line here is that an older retirement age equals a higher age factor percentage up to the max for your tier. So that's something that you can track. And that's one of the ways that you earn credit toward retirement, is by getting older. So that one's pretty easy. The second way that you earn credit toward retirement is through working, through earning service credit by working. You earn service credit starting with your date of entry in Acera, and you're going to earn service credit all the way up until your termination date. And in fact, your service credit is measured in years, but we calculate it down to the fraction of a day. So if you're logging your account on our website, you'll look at your service credit number. It'll say like 7.82946. All those decimal places are us calculating your service credit down to the fraction of a day. And we will put all of those decimal places into the formula when we calculate your retirement, which means you're getting all the service credit that you earn, and you earn service credit up to the last 15 minutes that you work in your job. So you're getting credit for all that. You earn service credit during your regular work hours. We keep track of all that. You also earn service credit during your earned leave times. Vacation leave, sick leave, management leave, comp time, holidays, floating holidays. If some of these might not apply to you, some of them might. Um, but if you go out on these earned leaves, you earn service credit during that time. These do not count against you. So you're already earning service credit when you're out on that earned leave. Now, there's some times when you don't earn service credit. You don't earn service credit if you ever go out on leave without pay. You're not earning service credit if you're not getting paid by your employer. If you purchase additional vacation on top of your earned vacation, some of our employers allow that. Like, let's say you earn 2 weeks per year and you purchase an additional week and you take a 3-week vacation. Whenever you mark that purchased vacation time on your timesheet, you're not earning credit toward retirement during that week. But what I always tell people is over the course of a long career, if you purchase a week of vacation here and there, whenever I sit down and do the calculation, it doesn't really affect the bottom line very much. Um, it'll have a very small effect on your overall retirement allowance. Okay, sold vacation is when you sell your earned vacation back to your employer for cash. You don't take the vacation. You are still at work and you sell your vacation back to your employer. That you will not earn service credit for that, but you do get the cash. Also, overtime, on-call time, and standby time, you do not earn service credit during those times. Okay, so let me tell you about purchasing service credit. And this is something really good to understand as a new employee or as somebody in your mid-career, because if you have one of these types of time that's eligible to purchase, you have a lot of time to make this purchase. You have a lot of opportunity to make this purchase. Maybe you don't have one of these types of time yet, but you will incur one of these types of time in the future. It's good to understand what they are and understand that it is purchasable in the future. Okay, so what this does, what purchasing service credit does, is it increases your amount of service credit that we put in the formula for you. And that's good because if you recall, in the multiplication, the higher any of those three factors are, the higher your retirement allowance is going to be. So purchasing service credit makes your pension benefit when you retire go up. It makes it bigger because you have more service credit in the formula for you. The theme here, the types of time that are purchasable, is kind of like you incurred this type of time where you incurred this situation. And the situation being what it was, the law did not allow for you to earn service credit while you were incurring that time or that situation. But the law does allow for you to come back later and purchase it. Okay. So for example, here are the types of time that are purchasable. Okay. The first is called ineligible or non-covered service purchase, which means you worked for a certain time, but you didn't earn service credit for it because you were not in that full-time retirement eligible position yet. So that includes part-time work, and this is just plain old part-time work. You weren't under contract, you weren't working for a temporary agency or an employment agency, you were just working part-time for your employer. You didn't earn service credit because you weren't an ACERA member yet, but then once you gain your ACERA membership, you can buy that part-time work that you did. Also, TAP time. TAP is the county's temporary assignment pool, which is their kind of in-house temp agency. And this would be the only kind of temporary agency time that you can buy because it's for the county. The county's temporary assignment pool time. All that is purchasable. Now, if you did seasonal work or intermittent work or service as needed work, project work, per diem work, these are all kind of different labels for different types of work that you did before working for your employer in the full-time retirement eligible position, and those types of time are purchasable. Then we have the 2-week lag between your hire date and entry date. That's purchasable. Unpaid medical leave. If you ever go out on unpaid medical leave for your own medical condition, not for a family member's medical condition, you go on unpaid medical leave during your career, you can buy that time back when you return from that leave up to 1 year per instance. And returning from that leave simply means coming back to work and getting one paycheck. So if you're out on unpaid medical leave for a year, you return to work, get paid, you go out on unpaid medical leave for another year. Both of those 1 year periods are purchasable upon returning from the leave. State disability insurance leave is similar. It's where you are out on disability leave and you're being paid from the state from their disability insurance program. And so that time is purchasable upon returning from that leave. Now, one of the things that sometimes happens is you are paid partially from the state and you also are paid partially from your employer. Anytime that you receive that employer paycheck, you're already earning service credit for that partial time. So then the time that would become purchasable would be that other partial time where you're being paid from the state. We help you when you submit a service purchase request, we help you calculate it. Or we do all the calculations for you so you don't have to calculate it. Okay. Military leave during membership. This is not military service prior to membership because that's not purchasable, but military leave during membership. Well, the caveat there is if you did the military leave before 1973, which since this is a new employee seminar or mid-career seminar, it's probably not the case. But the military leave during membership is where you go out on military leave while you're an active employee. You return from that leave, all of that time becomes purchasable. Okay, the last two in the first the first group, all of these count toward vesting. The last two are redeposits. The redeposit of a prior membership is where you used to be an Acera member in the past. You were earning service credit, you were paying into the system, and then you stopped working here. And when you did that, you took a refund of your contribution account, all of your employee contributions. When you did that, you canceled your Acera membership and you lost all your service credit and you went and did something else. Now you're back here, you're an Acera member again. And if you want to get that service credit back from that original membership, you can put all that money back in, an equivalent amount of money, and that's called a redeposit. And then you would get your service credit back. Okay, so redeposit of community property. In California, California is a community property state. And that means that if you're married or you have a state registered domestic partner, any retirement that you earn while you're in that marriage or state registered domestic partnership is considered community property. And if you get divorced or you dissolve the domestic partnership, the community property gets divided among the ex-spouses in a way that you either do it in an agreement that you make or the court decides. In either case, sometimes the ex-spouse will take part of your Acera account, and what they'll be taking is a part of your retirement contributions and a corresponding part of your service credit, and that goes into their separate account. Now, if that happens, and then they take a refund of their account, we will notify you through the mail that they did that and give you the opportunity to put in an equivalent, redeposit an equivalent amount of money to get that service credit back. And then it's called a redeposit of community property. And just as an aside, if you are facing a divorce or a domestic partnership dissolution, your Acera account doesn't have to get divided. That's just something that sometimes gets agreed to with the ex-spouses, but you can negotiate other parts of community property away so that you maintain all of your, Acera account. Okay. Finally, the last bullet point on the slide is called Other California Prior Public Service. This is where you used to work for another public agency in California. There's some examples here like East Bay Mud or the Port of Oakland, other counties, state, CalPERS, which is the state's, the state's pension fund for state jobs. And so you used to work for another California public agency and you're not working there anymore. You're working here. And you're not eligible for, you're not eligible for whatever pension that they provide, their pension system provides, usually because you didn't work there long enough to qualify for their pension. So what you can do is you can take a refund of your money from their pension system and you can buy that time as a Sarah service credit. So for example, I don't know what the rules are for, let's say, the Port of Oakland. Let's say you work for the Port of Oakland for 2 years, and 2 years doesn't get you over their vesting requirement over there, so you won't be able to collect a pension from them. Well, what you can do is you can take a refund of the 2 years that you paid in at the Port of Oakland, and you can use that money to buy 2 years worth of Acera service credit. There's more information at acera.org/service. It's a full article on this. But let me say a few more things about purchasing a service credit. I showed you the list of eligible service credit purchases. So let me show you the list of the things that people usually ask about that are not eligible. Like I was saying earlier, the vacation purchase time. So going back 2 slides where I said if you purchase additional vacation, you don't earn service credit for that. When you mark that on your timesheet, you also cannot buy that back. Okay, now non-medical leave without pay. You'll notice on the eligible service credit purchases list, unpaid medical leave is listed here, but unpaid leave is not listed here because just regular old unpaid leave, that's not medical leave, is not purchasable. Also, I mentioned this contract or temporary agency time is not purchasable. Also, if you're trying to buy this other California prior public service time and you still have contributions on deposit with the other pension system, you can't buy the time until you take a refund from their pension system. Okay. Oh, and one more thing I want to say about that. Sometimes people will have enough time over in the other pension system that they'll be able to collect a pension benefit from that system one day. Well, in those cases, you probably want to just leave that money over there and then collect the pension when you're eligible from that system. Okay, so how much does it cost to make a service credit purchase? Well, whatever your employee contributions would have been had you worked that time, that's what it's going to cost. So for example, if you're trying to buy 3 months of unpaid medical leave, had you been here working for that 3 months, we would have taken money out of your paycheck. You would have paid that into Acera's fund. So whatever that amount of money would have been, based on your pay rate at that time in your career, that is what it will cost you to make the service credit purchase, plus interest. And the interest is the money that your contributions would have earned because had you worked for that 3 months, we would have invested your money and it would have over time earned interest. And so that's why the longer you wait to purchase service credit, the more expensive it gets because we post interest twice a year, June 30th, December 31st. So every time you pass one of those dates and don't buy the service credit, that is more interest. I mean, we usually earn interest. Occasionally, we don't earn interest in a 6-month period if the market doesn't do well. But over long periods of time, we tend to earn around 7+% interest per year. So the more time passes, the more interest that you're going to have to pay because the more money that money would have earned had we invested it. And we will do all that calculation for you. All you need to do if you're interested in making a service credit purchase or just finding out how much it's going to cost, all you need to do is complete a purchase redeposit request. You log into your account, you complete it in there. Or alternatively, you can go to our forms page at acera.org/forms if you don't want to log in, and there's a DocuSign form right there. You can do it all online. And then we'll do the calculations and we'll send you a letter with the cost. And at that point, you decide if you want to make the service credit purchase and how much of the service credit purchase you want to make. Because going back a few slides to the list, for all of the types of time, except for the redeposit, you could actually just buy a portion of the time if you want to. Like if you have a year of unpaid medical leave and you only want to buy 6 months worth, you could do that. The redeposits are all or none. One more thing I'll say about cost is that for all of the above bullet points, except for the last one, you're just paying the employee contribution part plus interest. For the bottom one, the other California prior public service, you're going to pay the employee and the employer contribution. And that's why this one can cost double or triple of what the other purchases cost. So that one can be kind of expensive. But like I said, we do the calculation for you. We tell you how much it's going to cost, and then you decide whether you want to make the service credit purchase or not. And you have various payment options. You can write us a lump sum check from your post-tax account, like checking account, or you could roll over pre-tax funds from another retirement account if you have a pre-tax retirement savings account, or we could do payroll deductions for you. So we could split it up over time. Like if you're trying to buy 6 months worth of unpaid medical leave, for example, we'll split up the payments, we'll calculate the total, and then we'll split it up over 6 months, or the maximum of 6 months, if that's how you want to do it, and take it out of your paycheck for you. So you don't even have to think about it and that's on a post-tax basis. Or we can do any combination. So whenever you get the letter from us about the service credit purchase, it will give you your options on there, and then you can decide which option you want to take. Now, people will ask, is purchasing service credit worth it? Or how do I figure out whether it's worth it? And you can figure this out for yourself. And let me show you how to do that really quickly. So if you want to make a service credit purchase, what you do is step one is you submit that service credit purchase request to us, and you wait for the letter from us to tell you how much it's going to cost. Okay. Then you log into your account on Acera's website, and you're going to use our benefit estimate tool, and you're going to run 2 estimates. Do I have a screenshot of that? Yeah, here's the benefit estimate tool. Okay. Estimate number 1, you are going to leave this projected service credit field blank. Okay. So in the when you're doing a service credit, when you're doing a benefit estimate, what you're doing is you're estimating what your retirement allowance will be in the future based on a projected retirement scenario that you pick. So you're imagining, let's say I retire in 20 years. So you pick a retirement date 20 years from now, and you run the estimate. So you put in a separation date, which is your last day on payroll, that works with your projected retirement scenario, and a projected retirement date, which has to be at least the next day. You hit calculate. And what this is doing is it's projecting the amount of service credit that you will earn in this retirement scenario. So on estimate number 1, you leave this field blank, okay? And then you hit get estimate, and you end up with a PDF retirement benefit estimate that gives you a projection of what your retirement allowance is going to be for the rest of your life every month when you retire. Estimate number 2, you go back into the tool. You use the exact same retirement date, but this time you do use the service credit override field. You take the service credit that it tells you and you add what you're trying to purchase. Okay, so you take this number. Let's say you're trying to purchase 3 months worth of unpaid medical leave. Well, you got to convert it into years because this number is in years. 3 months is about a quarter year, so that would be 0.25. You take 0.25, you add it to what you already got there, and you put that in the override service credit field. So it's going to do an estimate with more service credit, which means that when you hit get estimate, estimate number 2 is going to be more dollars than estimate number 1. So all you do is you put those side by side and you look at the difference. You subtract the smaller one from the bigger one. And you can see how much more estimate number 2 is going to pay you per month in retirement. Okay, so now that you figured that out, how much making the service credit purchase will increase your retirement allowance, then you take the purchase cost from the letter that we sent you and you simply divide that dollar amount by how much the increase is between estimate 1 and estimate 2. So let's say that your purchase cost that we tell you, you get the letter from us, it's going to cost you $1,200 to make the service credit purchase. But by making the service credit purchase, it's going to increase your retirement allowance by $100. Estimate 2 is $100 bigger than estimate 1. Well, when you divide 1,200 by 100, it's only going to take you 12 months in retirement to get that money back. Because in retirement, if you make the service credit purchase, your retirement allowance is going to be higher. And how much higher is how much it takes you each month to get that money back that you paid while you were working to make the service credit purchase. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that was a lot about service credit. Let me just talk really briefly about the highest average monthly salary. The service credit tends to be the one of the three factors that you have the most control over. You can just work longer, earn more and more service credit to increase your retirement allowance. And what does happen is while you're earning more and more service credit, your age is going up. So while you're increasing your service credit, you're also increasing your age factor percentage at the same time. So you're kind of increasing both. Um, the highest average monthly salary, here's how we calculate that. Okay. When you go to retire, we are going to find the highest pay periods from your entire career. We have all your payroll information in our database because your employer sends that to our database. And your highest pay period in your career is known as your final compensation period. That's just some pension lingo. If you're in tiers 1 or 3, your final compensation period is your highest consecutive 26 biweekly or 12 monthly pay periods, depending on how you're paid. If you're in tiers 2 and 4, your final compensation period is your highest 78 biweekly or 36 monthly pay periods, depending on whether you're paid biweekly or monthly. So in essence, if you're in tiers 1 and 3, your final compensation period is your highest year of pay. If you're in tiers 2 and 4, your final compensation period is your highest 3 years of pay. And our goal for the formula is to find out what your highest average monthly salary is. So all we do is we look in our pension database. In fact, our software just does this for us. But what it does is it finds these consecutive pay periods, the highest year or the highest 3 years, depending on your tier. It looks at the total pay that you made during that time. And then it just takes an average. It divides by 12 months or 36 months to get the highest average monthly salary. And this is the salary that we plug into the formula for you. The salary that is included, and this is all gross salary, is your base pay. And when I say gross salary, that means before any deductions are taken out. Deductions like taxes or like payments into buy healthcare or insurance or any of that stuff. It's just your gross pay. The pay that's included in the calculation is, of course, your base pay. There could be some other pay codes that go in there. Some people have other pay codes, sometimes known as footnotes, and these may count or these may not count toward this highest average salary calculation. And the way that you figure it out, because there's like 1,000 of them, so you have to look it up yourself. I don't have them memorized. Is you go to acera.org/paycodes, and you open up the PDF for your employer, you find your pay code in there, and it will say yes or no, whether it counts toward your salary for calculating your pension or not. The one pay code I know that does not that never counts is overtime. If you need help finding your pay code on there, your payroll manager will be able to find it for you. For tiers 1 and 2 people, the last two bullet points that could be included as your highest average salary in calculating your highest average salary is if you sell vacation during your final compensation period, some of that could be included. Or if you cash out, if your final compensation period happens to be at the end of your career because you're making the highest rate of pay at the end of your career, and you cash out vacation, which means that you have vacation left over on the books when you stop working, they will pay you off for your unused vacation up to 2 times your accrual rate of annual accrual rate of vacation. And some of that could be included. There is a limit through a combination of the sales and cash out on how much we're allowed to include. I don't take a deep dive into that information, that topic in this webinar, but I do talk about that in the pre-retirement webinar. So if you're curious about that, what I recommend doing is going to our website, acera.org. You scroll down to the bottom of the homepage. It says pre-retirement webinar. You click on that. Go out to YouTube. It takes you out to the YouTube video. And just fast forward through the video until you get to this slide. It'll be exactly the same slide. And then I'll talk about how vacation sales and cash out affect the salary component of the formula for, I don't know, probably anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. 'Cause it's a big topic that people want to know about. But it doesn't, tier 3 people can't do it, tier 4 people can't do it. So it's just tiers 1 and 2. Okay. One more thing about salary is for the tier 4 people, there is this cap written into the state law that created tier 4. We are not allowed to include any more annual salary dollars in the calculation of your retirement benefit when we calculate your salary, more than this cap that is the Social Security wage index limit. This number increases every year based on the federal government Social Security wage index number, and we publish it out on our website. If you go to acera.org/limits, you can always see what the limit is for that year. But for general members for 2024, for example, is $151,000, $151,446. For safety members, it's $181,734. The way this works is if you have a high salary that is over this amount, and let's say that once you earn more salary than the cap in the year, let's say that happens in October, for example, you hit the cap. For the rest of the year, we do not take any employee contributions out of your paycheck. And that is because when we go to calculate your retirement, we're not going to be allowed to include any more than these dollars in calculating your salary for calculating your pension. So to make it up, to make up for that, we don't collect the employee contribution for the rest of the year. And then when January 1st hits, it starts over and we start collecting contributions again. And what that does is it leaves you more money in your paycheck for the rest of the year. You can save in your 457B account if you want to, or in your personal savings. There's more information about that at acera.org/limits. Okay, so that was a lot of information about the retirement formula and how we calculate your retirement and how to maximize your retirement by maximizing each of these three factors. Here's an example of everything put together. This is a tier 4 member. They're retiring at age 65. They have earned 25 years of service credit exactly. So 25.0000. And like I was saying, normally you're not earning exactly an amount of years of service, so you get all the decimal places in the calculation for you. So in this case, we would, this is a tier 4 member and they're retiring at age 65. That's how we know that the age factor percentage is 2.30% from the age factor chart. They earn 25 years of service. And in this example, their highest average monthly salary was $6,000. So we just multiply those three things together. That tells us their monthly retirement allowance for the rest of their life. $3,450 in this example, plus cost of living increases throughout their retirement. Now, if you multiply the age factor percentage, like I did in the original example, by the years of service credit, what you get is the salary replacement number, because they are receiving 2.30% of their highest salary for each one of these 25 years of service. So their retirement allowance is 57.5% of their highest average monthly salary. So they are achieving 57.5% income replacement just from their Acera pension alone. And I told you earlier in the presentation that we'll revisit this concept of retirement planning. And I mentioned that you're trying to get pointed at 80% income replacement, but you're doing that through not only the Acera pension, but Social Security and personal savings. So if you were able to achieve 57.5% salary replacement just from the Acera pension, you'd be in really good shape. And we'll talk more about that later. Okay, so I talked about, in general, how the retirement calculation works. Gave you a lot of detail about that. But at this point, if you want to, you can simply use now that you understand that maximizing the three factors in the formula gets you a higher retirement allowance, you can do scenarios using our benefit estimator in your account, and you can see what the effect of working longer or doing different things with those three factors will get you in terms of your projected monthly retirement allowance. So in order to get a pension estimate, I'll show you two ways actually to get this little window into what your future retirement income is going to be from Acera. The first thing I'll show you is how to use one of these salary replacement charts that we make available to you on our website. So if you go to, in your browser, acera.org/planning, let me actually open up a browser window here. And just show you how to do it. Okay, here's our website, acera.org. So you can either type in acera.org/planning, or you can just go under members. And the third selection down, planning your future retirement income, will take you to this planning page. And this is under step 1. You'll see 4 different ways to get a retirement estimate. The first way is to use these income replacement charts, and this gives you a quick ballpark estimate. Okay. So what you do is you find your tier and you just click on the button for your tier. I'm going to click on General Tier 4. And what's going to open is this PDF chart. Let me zoom in here so you can see it better. And all you do is you think of a plausible retirement scenario for you. Like, let's say that you're a new employee and you started at age 30 and you're thinking, what happens if I retire in 30 years at age 60? Well, you find where those things intersect on the chart. So at the top is ages, different ages that you would retire at. And down the column is years of service credit. So in that example, I was saying 30 years of service credit at age 60, and you would achieve 54% income replacement in that scenario from your Acera pension alone. And then what you can do is you can go diagonally in either direction to see, like, what happens if I work a year less? What will my income replacement be? Well, if I work a year less, I retire at age 59. With 29 years of service, I would get 49.3% salary replacement. And so you can just go diagonally back to see the effect of working a year less, or you can go diagonally up to see the effect of working a year more. If I retire at 61 with 31 years of service credit, that's 58.90% salary replacement. And then if you want to get like a ballpark on what the dollar amount would be, you would simply take this percentage and multiply it by your current monthly salary. So you just calculate whatever you're making on average per month right now and multiply it by that percentage. And that just kind of gives you an idea dollar-wise of what you would be expecting from Acera when you retire. Now, it's going to be a little bit different when you get there because your retirement is probably a little ways away. You're going to get a bunch of cost of living increases between now and then, so your salary will actually be higher. So that's why this income replacement percentage works really well as a tool for planning toward retirement because it's not dependent on like inflation or anything like that, or cost of living increases or salary increases. Okay, so that is a kind of a quick way to get a sense, like I said, a ballpark sense of what you can expect from Acera regarding salary replacement in retirement. The second way that you can get a little window into the future is by using the online tool that I already showed you a screenshot of, which is our benefit estimator. So you go to acera.org, you click the login button in the upper right corner. And once you log in, you will first see this account summary screen. On the account summary screen, you will see some summary information, like which tier you're in, who your employer is, whether you have established reciprocity or not, your date of birth, your first day of employment, your first day of entry into Acera. It's always good to just review that information. If anything looks wrong, go ahead and contact us at acera.org/contact. Or you can call us at 510-628-3000, and that phone number is out on our website. It will tell you how much service credit you've earned so far. If you've purchased service credit, it will show that purchase in there and tell you total service credit. And then it will show you how much you've contributed to the retirement system already in your throughout your career, the balance of your contribution account. Since you're trying to estimate a benefit, what you do is you click on Estimate a Benefit, and you do a retirement scenario. So you think about what retirement scenario you want to get an estimate for, like what happens if I retire 20 years from now or 15 years from now. you put in a separation date. If you want to see what happens if you go straight from active work into retirement, these would be 2 consecutive dates. If you want to see what happens if you stop working in 5 years and defer your retirement to a later date, then there would be a gap between these dates. So you just pick a scenario that works for you, that's plausible, and you hit calculate. So I'm just going to zoom in here. I hit calculate, and these are screenshots. And once I hit calculate, it will give me a projected amount of service credit in this retirement scenario. So this is saying if I retire in 2030 on these on this date with the separation date, it's adding the service that I've already earned, plus it's projecting out the additional service I will have earned between now and then and adding it all together. And this is how much it projects I will have earned in this scenario, should I keep working at the current rate that I'm working. It's also doing a salary projection, and the salary projection uses your most recent pay period on file, which could be 2 to 4 weeks ago in the system, because there's a 2 to 4 week lag. And because you're new employees or you're in your mid-career, and your retirement is probably a ways away, these dates are a ways away, it's gonna do salary projections where it takes your current pay period that it has on file and it fills in the 1 year or 3 year final compensation periods worth of pay periods to get this highest average monthly salary, also known as final average salary. And then you have the opportunity to override both of those numbers. You can override service credit if you, but like I was saying earlier, you want to see the effect of making service credit purchases, or for the salary, if you want to see the effect of, like, if you like to calculate inflation in there, because you figure that cost of living adjustments your employer is going to give you is going to keep up with average inflation throughout your career, you could, and you enjoy math, you can do that on your own. If you want a nice conservative estimate, you could just leave those blank. Go ahead and leave hours of cash vacation compensation blank. You can select a beneficiary here and hit get estimate. And what you end up with is this retirement benefit estimate PDF. This box in here tells you what, just to zoom in here, what your estimated monthly retirement benefit is going to be once you retire every month for the rest of your life in this scenario that you have run the estimate for. And for right now, like when you get toward retirement, you're going to want to think about which one of these 5 options you're going to choose, the unmodified option or options 1 through 4. The different options give your beneficiaries different benefits. All of the other options pay less than the unmodified option. So what I always recommend is just look at the unmodified option for now, because this is what the vast majority of people select in the end anyway. And so you can just kind of look at this number. Unless you enjoy this, type of pension information, we have lots of information out on our website about the other 4 options. But yeah, you can just kind of go by this number here. This is your estimated retirement allowance. Okay. Okay, let me help you understand retirement eligibility. I mentioned before when we were looking at the pension milestone chart that it happens when you achieve a certain combination of years of service credit and age. This is when you first become eligible to retire. And you can retire on this day, or you can keep working after that and earn more credit toward retirement. So I'll show you the slide for tiers 1, 2, and 3, and then I'll show you the tier 4 slide after that. For tiers 1, 2, and 3, there are 3 different combinations that get you to eligibility for retirement. Your first option is you're at least age 50, and you have at least 5 years of service credit, and you have at least 10 years of membership with the SARA. Now, tiers 1, 2, and 3 all closed over 10 years ago, so everyone in those tiers has at least 10 years of membership. So you just really got to look at the 5 years of service credit and be over age 50, and then you can retire from a SARA. Option number 2 is that as a general member, you have at least 30 years of service credit, or as a safety member, you have at least 20 years of service credit, and then you can retire at any age. even if it's younger than age 50. Option number 3 is that you can retire with any amount of service credit at age 70 or older, even if it's less than the 5 years you need for option number 1. So you could retire with 4 years of service credit at age 70. Okay, so that's tiers 1, 2, and 3. Tier 4, you have 2 different combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. Option number 1 is that you are a general member and at least age 52 or a safety member and at least age 50, and you have at least 5 years of service credit. You can retire as long as you meet that minimum requirement. So it actually doesn't require a ton of service credit and a really old age to retire. You could retire as a general member at age 52 with 5 years of service credit. Now, if you have only earned 5 years of service credit, that means that your retirement allowance is going to be fairly modest because we're only putting 5 years into the formula for you. Option number 2 is you could retire at age 70 or older with any amount of service credit, even if it is less than the 5 years of service that you need for option number 1. Okay, so that's how you become eligible to retire. It's actually pretty simple. Let me help you understand some additional benefits that we offer. We offer medical, dental, vision, and other non-guaranteed benefits. So I talked a lot about how the retirement allowance and the cost of living adjustment, those are guaranteed benefits. These medical, dental, vision, those are extra benefits that are not guaranteed, but we do offer them, and I'll talk a little bit more about those on the next slide. Disability retirement is an option. If you become permanently disabled at any point in your career, you become permanently disabled and you can no longer perform your job duties, you can apply for disability retirement. There's 2 kinds. There's service-connected and non-service connected. Service-connected is where your disability arose out of something to do with your employment, and non-service connected is where you're still permanently disabled, but it didn't have anything to do with your work, but you're still permanently disabled and you can no longer work. So you can learn more about disability retirement on our website under, I think it's sarah.org/disability. And there's a whole section of the website devoted to that topic. And then death benefits. So we do offer death benefits. If you should die before retirement, there's active member death benefits. I'll talk about those in just a minute. Okay. Let me tell you about the non-guaranteed benefits first. These are extra benefits that the county decided their employees needed in retirement to pay for their lives. And so they started a reserve fund that Acera manages. And Acera's board, what they do, their job is to ensure the sustainability of that reserve fund. And they offer these subsidies mostly for medical benefits, or healthcare benefits, dental and vision, and Medicare, but additionally a supplemental cost of living adjustment. So this helps, if you qualify for these, this helps you pay for some of those benefits in retirement. These may be reduced or eliminated to continue the sustainability of that reserve fund that pays for these. Right now, that reserve fund, there's over $1 billion in there, and it's considered the most sustainable it's ever been. But the Board of Retirement, what they do is they will adjust the rules on what the benefits are or who qualifies for them in order to maintain the sustainability of that fund, with the goal of being able to pay these type of benefits in perpetuity to Acera members. So I say all that just to kind of drive home the idea that these are not guaranteed benefits. They could go away in the future. They probably won't, because the board is trying to ensure this fund stays sustainable. But really, the main point that I want to talk about right now, because you are a new employee or you're in your mid-career, so you will not be able to access these benefits for some time until after you retire. The main point that I want to tell you right now is this column right here, years of Acera service credit to qualify for the benefits, because we're talking about kind of future planning. So you'll notice that the supplemental cost of living adjustment, which is an extra cost of living adjustment on top of the vested one, the guaranteed one, that is the only one of these benefits that does not have a minimum years of Acera service credit to qualify for the benefit. This one, what it does is it maintains your buying power in retirement. All of the other ones start at 10 years of Acera service credit to qualify. Once you have earned 10 years of service credit with Acera, you qualify for the Medicare subsidy, which helps you pay for the cost of Medicare, the vision and dental subsidies, which cover your whole cost of dental and vision premiums. And then there's this medical subsidy called the monthly medical allowance, where there's 3 levels, and the lowest level starts at 10 years, but then there's 2 higher levels that you can achieve with 15 and 20 years of Acera service credit. So the reason I'm talking about this right now is just to let you know that these benefits exist. You can expect some kind of healthcare benefits when you go to retire. But regarding retirement planning, it's good to understand how many years of Acera service credit it takes to qualify. And this is not reciprocal service credit. This is Acera service credit only. Okay. Which means that when you're looking at your retirement plan and you're figuring out how long you want to work, whether you're going to leave or not, you might want to just add a milestone on here and be cognizant of this healthcare subsidies start at 10 years date, and even the 15 and 20-year milestones for the monthly medical allowance. For example, if you've already been working here for 9.5 years, and you are considering going out and doing something else that is not working for one of Acera's 6 participating employers, maybe you want to reconsider and hang around for another 6 months, work that past that 10-year mark, because the medical subsidy, dental subsidy, vision subsidy, Medicare subsidy is going to represent a lot of extra money in retirement on top of your retirement allowance. So if you can, I recommend targeting getting past these cutoff marks for years of Acera service credit, 10 or 15 or 20, if you can push past them. And that will give you additional money in retirement to pay for those type of benefits. Okay, now we're talking about other benefits. Let's talk about designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries and keeping them current. And this is in the context of Acera death benefits, okay? So your beneficiary, that word just means someone who gets benefits. A beneficiary receives benefits. Your Acera beneficiary is somebody you designate to receive your Acera death benefits after your passing. So what we're talking about right now, because this is a new employee and mid-career webinar, and you're not going to retire yet from some time, we're talking about death benefits should you die before you retire. So hopefully that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen much, but there are death benefits available to your beneficiary should you die before you retire. Now, here are the death benefits. If you're not yet vested, which means you have not yet earned 5 years of service credit, what we will give your beneficiary if you die before retirement is we will return the balance of your contribution account to them, which means all of the employee contributions you've paid in, plus the interest that we've paid to your account every time our fund earns interest. They'll get that, plus they'll get 1 month of your salary, for each year of service that you've already worked, up to 6 months worth of salary. Excuse me. So that means that if you've worked here for 4 years already, they would get 4 months of your salary. Okay, moving on to the next category. If you're vested, which means you have already earned 5 years of service credit, and that could mean that if you have reciprocity, you are vested. If you have 5 years combined among all the reciprocal agencies, you're considered vested in all of them. Okay. And again, I'll talk about what reciprocity means in more detail in a few minutes. So your beneficiaries would then get a choice. Option number one is a return of, it's actually the exact same as the non-vested one. It's a return of your contribution account plus 1 month salary for each year of service up to 6 months. Then there's option two, which is a monthly survivor's allowance. And they would receive a allowance for the rest of their life in many cases. Option number three is a combination of options one and two, which is a monthly survivor's allowance that's smaller than the option two, plus 1 month of salary for each year of service up to 6 months in a lump sum. So if you've worked here for 6 years or 7 years or 8 years, they would get 6 months of your salary. Okay, now what I'm realizing as I'm going through this slide is that I have not updated this slide because the Board of Retirement recently created a new election that you all can make as active members that would provide your beneficiaries with a greater retirement, a greater monthly survivor's allowance than if you did not make the election. And there's no downside. There's no reason not to make this election. And so since I haven't updated the slide, let me just go out to the website and show you how to do this. Okay, what you're going to do, and all of you should do this. That's my recommendation. There's no downside to this. So you go out to forms. You go to acera.org. You go under forms and publications, click on forms. Scroll down to active or deferred member beneficiary designation form. You click on the PDF. It will cause you to download the PDF form. I'm going to open it in a new tab here if I can, just so I can show it to you. Hang on. The reason that we force you to download it is because you're going to want to save it on your device so that you can save the changes. But let me show you what this form looks like. Okay, all you do is you fill out the beneficiary designation form. If you've already designated your beneficiaries, which most of you probably have, you can verify that in your account on our website. I'll show you that in a minute. But you're going to want to go ahead and fill out this form again to make this election. Okay. So you just fill out your information here. If you have a spouse or state registered domestic partner, you put their information in here. Then you designate your beneficiaries here. Okay. You put in as much information as you have. It will ask you for a lot of stuff like social security number. If you don't have that handy, the minimum that we need is just their name and their relationship to you. If your beneficiary is a minor, you can name a custodian for their benefits, and there's instructions on how to do that over here at acera.org/minors. So this is your primary beneficiary. You have 3 sets of fields there. There's also a contingent beneficiary set of fields where you can name contingent beneficiaries in case you die, and when we go to pay the benefits, your primary beneficiary has also already died. So it's always good to name contingent beneficiaries. Then scrolling down to section 4, all you do is you click this box, Advanced Death Benefit Election. It gives you more information here. It gives you a website, acera.org/ADV. That gives you more information about what this does. The bottom line of what this does, like I can give you the short version, is it will increase that retirement allowance to whatever the maximum is that we can give your beneficiary, one, and it makes it so that you can name other people than spouse, state registered domestic partner, or minor children for a lifetime continuance should you die before retirement. So that's the 2 big things that it does. And so it's a new thing. It's brand new. We just launched this. You probably got an email about it. Maybe you've already made the selection, but so you click the box. If you have a spouse, you need to print this out, have them sign it, or a state registered domestic partner. If you don't, you can skip that part. You sign it, and then it gives you 4 different options on submitting the form. You can do it electronically by by scanning it in, or using the Adobe Scan app on your smartphone to scan it in, or you can send it to us by quick code, fax, or mail. So that's how you do that. There's also a video here that is a walkthrough that we made in case you need further instructions on how to fill out the beneficiary designation form. So that is the new advanced death benefit election. And so for option number 2, if you do make the election, this 2 qualified beneficiary thing goes away because you can name anyone as a beneficiary for a lifetime continuance for options 2 and 3. Okay, now, if you are a deferred member, all of those options would go away, and what your beneficiaries would receive is a return of the balance of your contribution account, your employee contributions plus interest. Okay, there's more info. Acera.org/death has it has all the details about all the death benefits that we offer, especially those that we're talking about that are offered to your beneficiary should you die before retirement. That page actually has all of the information about the advanced death benefit election on it. So I recommend going ahead and keeping your beneficiary designations up to date. If you haven't made the advanced death benefit election, you can do it today. You just, fill out the form like I showed you at acera.org/forms. You can check on your beneficiaries at any time by logging into your account on our website. You go to acera.org and press the login button, or you can just go to acera.org/login. And there's a screen for nominated beneficiaries. So you click on it and you can see who you have designated as your beneficiaries, primary and contingent, also known as alternate. You won't see on this screen whether or not you've made the advanced death benefit election, but as long as you've sent the form in, we'll send you a letter in the mail telling you, verifying that you did that, and you can just trust that it has been made. Now, if you ever come on the screen and you see that your beneficiaries are out of date, like you see your spouse from 3 spouses ago, you're probably going to want to go ahead and nominate a new beneficiary. You can do that anytime you want. Active members can do it. Deferred members can do it. Nominate new beneficiaries. If you come on the screen, it actually gives you a link to the form, and that's how you nominate your beneficiary. Okay, so moving along. Next item on the checklist, understanding career planning options. So as I was saying at the start of the presentation, what I mean by career planning options is that you are not going to work in this job forever. You are going to work in this job for some future finite amount of time. So you need to stop working in the job at some point. So what are your options regarding Acera for when you stop working in your job? Well, option number 1, which many people do, is you continue working throughout your career and you work straight into retirement. And whatever the retirement situation is for you, whether you're retiring on the earlier side, like, in your 50s or late 50s, or even early 60s, or you're working straight into retirement in your mid 60s, like whatever you need to do, that's your situation. So that's option number 1. Is you work straight into retirement. You could, like I said, retire at age 50 or 52, depending on which tier you're in, as long as you have the 5 years of service credit. And so you could do it that way, work straight into retirement. That's option number 1. If you do that, you're going to earn service credit right up to retirement. So your termination date is going to be the day before your first day of retirement, and you're in service credit right up until that date. We will convert your unused sick leave on a 2-to-1 basis to service credit automatically. There's more information on our website about that. You can go work somewhere else if you want. Like, let's say you do retire on the early side at age 50 or 52. We're going to just send you your Acera pension every month for the rest of your life. And maybe you have a lot more working years left in you that you want to go try something else. You can do that. And, we don't care. You're an Acera retiree as far as we're concerned. We send you your pension for the rest of your life every month. Okay. So that's option number 1, is working straight into retirement. Option number 2 is that maybe you don't retire immediately after you stop working here. So what are your options there? Because many people ask about that. Like maybe you don't want to work until you're 50 or 52 or 60 or whatever it is. Maybe you're wondering what else is out there, but you're wondering what happens to your Acera pension. So here's what happens. I'm going to show you under this category, under this heading, terminating before retirement, 3 different options that you have. I'm going to label them A, B, and C. Okay. So your first option, option A, is where, and just to be clear, here is the pension milestone chart again. And in these 3 scenarios, your termination date and retirement date are not consecutive days. You're not going straight into retirement. You are stopping work in your job, and then you're deferring your retirement to a later date, possibly. Okay, there's a gap here. So what are your 3 options? Options A, B, and C. Option A, regarding your Acera membership, is that you can maintain your Acera membership by becoming what we call a deferred member, which means you are done working here, but you're deferring your retirement to a later date. You can retire out of deferred status, okay? So all you need to do to become a deferred member is you leave your contributions on deposit with the Acera. You don't take a refund of your contribution account, which is going to be option C, which I'll show you in just a minute. So you leave your contributions on deposit with the Acera. You become a deferred member. And that means you're still an Acera member because the word member is in there. You're just a deferred member. You're not an active member anymore, which is where you're actively working and paying into the system. You're a deferred member. You're not a retired member because you haven't retired yet. So you're in this kind of middle ground. Interest will continue to accumulate on the contributions that you've already made. You won't make more contributions because you have stopped working and you will stop contributing to the retirement system. But if you leave your contributions on deposit, we are going to continue posting interest to your account every time we earn interest. In fact, there's no negative interest. And people ask me what I mean by that. It means that your balance never declines. If we lose money in a 6-month period on paper, I mean, over long periods of time, we earn lots of interest because, it's just the way investments work. But if in the short term, we have a negative return for a 6-month period, we don't take any money out of your account. There's no other investment account that works like this, that pays the kind of interest that we pay, that there is no risk. You just leave your money there and it continues to accrue interest and it never declines. The balance never declines. If you want to see what kind of interest we earn, you can go to acera.org/interest. And that is a shortcut to our historical interest chart. We've posted our 6-month interest rates that we have earned and posted to our member accounts, going back maybe 30 years, I think, back to 1993. And we have an average down here, and you can see that the average that we have earned per year over that 30-year period is 7.69%. So I don't know maybe you know of a place where you can park your money where there's zero risk that earns, those kind of rates that we've earned in the past. Of course, past interest earnings don't, predict future interest earnings, is the caveat that they always say. But like I said, we don't take money out of your account. You can retire later out of deferred status. So maybe you stop working and you're not yet ready to retire. You're not yet eligible to retire yet. Well, once you can become a deferred member and just wait until you become eligible at 50 or 52, and then you can retire out of deferred status. Or you could come back to work and earn more. So let's say that you already worked here for 5 years, you stop working, you want to go try something else, and then whatever else you try, it's not working out for you. You come back And you can get another job working for one of our participating employers and earn more credit toward retirement and kind of pick back up where you left off. And then you become an active member again. Alternatively, you could be refunded at any time. So if you become a deferred member when you stop working here, you leave your contributions on deposit, and let's say a few years goes by, and you decide, I don't want to retire later because it's too far away. I just want to take my money out, take option C, which I'll show you in a few minutes. You can be refunded at any time. So that what that means is that if you're unsure at the time of retirement what you want to do with your money, whether you want to leave it in a SARA or whether you want to do something else with it, you don't have to decide immediately. You could be refunded later if you want to. There's more information at acera.org/defer. There's a list of reasons that are good reasons to defer. There's a short list of reasons that are probably bad reasons to defer. So I recommend that if you are possibly going to become a deferred member, go ahead and check out that information. And there's a question that just popped up. Does the employee contributions only earn interest, or will it apply to the employer contributions too? Well, the thing with the employer contributions is they are never refundable. So if you do take option C and you take a refund later, we don't refund the employer contributions. We only refund the employee contributions plus the interest that's been paid on the employee contributions. The employer contributions always stay with the fund. And the way that you take advantage of the employer contributions is by retiring from a SARA and collecting your lifetime pension, because the employer contributions pay part of your lifetime pension. Okay, so that's option A. Option B is you can establish reciprocity with another retirement system in California. If you do that, what establishing reciprocity means is that you're linking another California public retirement system with a SARA. You're linking the systems together. We have reciprocity with many of the cities in California. We have reciprocity with, I think, all of the counties in California. There's 20 other counties that have their own pension funds. We have reciprocity with all of them. Those are called 1937 Act counties. Any agency in California, or any state job in California, except for the UC system, we have reciprocity with. Actually, let me check on that real fast. This might be outdated information. Okay, we do not, yeah, that's correct. We do not have reciprocity with the UC system. And any agency in California that uses CalPERS as their pension fund, there are some agencies, they're not big enough to run their own pension funds, so they just contract with the state pension fund, CalPERS, to provide pension benefits to their employees. So any agency that does that, we have reciprocity with. And you can see the full list if you go to acera.org/reciprocity. So what happens when you establish reciprocity is you're linking SARA with this other pension system that you have earned credit in. And by doing that, you achieve possibly four benefits. The first one is that the service credit you earn in all of the systems combined is used for the vesting and eligibility requirements. So, for example, you're a general tier 4 member. You work in Contra Costa County for 3 years. You're over age 52. You come over to a SARA and you work for 2 years, and you link the systems together. The 3 years plus the 2 years gives you the 5 years that you need to collect a retirement benefit at age 52. So that gives you the service credit from all the linked systems combined, gets you the vesting and retirement eligibility requirements. Benefit number 2, the highest average salary earned under any of the reciprocal systems linked together is used by all the systems when they go to calculate your retirement. So let's say that you work for Contra Costa County for 10 years and you're earning $20 an hour over there. Come over to a SARA and you work for 5 years and you are earning $30 an hour in your job over here. You go to retire, and let's say that you establish reciprocity between the systems. When you go to retire, both Contra Costa County and Acera is going to do a separate retirement calculation for you. You are going to get from Acera a retirement benefit based on your 5 years of service credit here. So we'll put the 5 years in the formula here, your age factor percentage from your tier here, and then your salary here. Contra Costa County, they're going to use your 10 years of service credit that you earned over there, your age factor percentage from your tier over there. And then when they get to the salary part of the formula, they'll see that you have reciprocity. They contact us, and if your salary is bigger over here, they'll use that salary when they're calculating your retirement based on the 10 years that you have over there. So it's like you made way more money during that 10 years. You get way more credit toward retirement. We both do the calculation, and we both separately send you a check in the mail. And really, it's all direct deposit these days. So that's how that works. If you are not in tier 4, if you're in tiers 1, 2, or 3, you might even pay a lower contribution rate than you would otherwise pay if you had not established reciprocity. And we can help you figure that out. And then kind of the fourth benefit that is part of this is establishing reciprocity can put you in an earlier tier than tier 4 if you entered that other agency before the cutoff date for the tiers before tier 4. In order to qualify for reciprocity, you need to do a few things. The first is you have to leave all your contributions on deposit with all the systems that you link together. You can link a lot of systems together. So let's say that you want to try something else in another county. You find a job over in Marin County. So you go work over there for a few years. You link that with Acera. You get tired of doing that, and you find a job down in San Francisco County. You get that job there. You link that with the 2 previous systems, and you can just keep doing that. I mean, you can link a bunch of systems together. One reason you might want to do that is because you get higher and higher salaries, and we're all going to use the highest salary that you earned on any of the systems. And that is one way to maximize your total retirement income is by getting new jobs with higher salaries. Now, you can do this as long as there's no more than a 6-month gap between when you stop working the first job and you start working the second job that is retirement eligible. So no more than 6 months between jobs. Also, you don't want to have more than 12 weeks of overlapping service. And you can get overlapping service by going on vacation here, vacation leave, and then immediately starting a new job. So you're on active payroll in 2 different systems at the same time. If you do that for more than 12 weeks, that will disqualify you from establishing reciprocity. The easiest way to do it is just to not have any overlapping service, and then you're safe. And they're going to cash you out for your vacation anyway. As long as you don't have over 2 times your annual accrual rate, you'll get cashed out for all of it anyway. Number 4 is that you have to retire from all the systems on the same day. So when you fill out your retirement application here and over in whatever other systems, you put the same date on the applications, and that keeps reciprocity together. And that is establishing reciprocity. It says option B. So with option B, you're kind of choosing option A and then also choosing option B because you're becoming a deferred member at Acera, and then you're going and establishing reciprocity with another retirement system. Okay, now option C. Option C is where you take a refund of your contribution account with Acera. So if you stop working here and you're not retiring, you do have the option of taking a refund of your contribution account. So we'll refund you all your employee contributions plus all the interest that we have paid to it with every 6-month interest period where we have earned interest. Now, if you do this and you're just looking for cash because you need to go do something, spend it on something, what we do is the refund comes in a lump sum payment, and if you're just looking for cash, you may lose 1/3 of it immediately due to taxes and penalties. If you're under age 59 or 59 and a half, I think, and you're withdrawing this money, you pay federal and state penalties for early withdrawal from a retirement account. Plus, we have to withhold federal and state taxes because you didn't pay taxes on your contributions going in, so you got to pay taxes on disbursements going out. That all that can add up to a third of your money. If you want to avoid the taxes and penalties, what you do instead is you roll over that money into another pre-tax retirement account. Here are some examples, and we can help you do that. And that way you don't have to pay taxes right then. There's no penalties. Refunds can take some time to process. 45 days, 60 days, sometimes longer. So this is not an instantaneous thing, just to be aware of. And what you're doing is you're waiving all of your rights to ACERA benefits. You're saying, cancel my membership. I don't want the service credit. I don't want to retire from ACERA in the future. I don't want access to the healthcare benefits. I don't want access to the death benefits. I just want to take my money and go do something else with it. And so, of course, this is your right because it's your money. You can take a refund if you want. But if you do cancel your ACERA membership, that means that you don't get to access those benefits. And if you recall from the beginning of the presentation, I told you that if you do retire from ACERA, we are going to give you all of your money and interest back through retirement payments in the first 3 to 5 years anyway. So if you wait and you retire from ACERA, if you're eligible to retire and you retire from ACERA, you're basically going to get a refund anyway, but it's going to not be a lump sum. It'll come, gradually over the first 3 to 5 years through your retirement payments. And then beyond that, you're going to get paid that same amount plus cost of living increases every month for the rest of your life. So you're going to get way more. You're going to get probably on average, because, with people's average lifespans, you're going to get way more money. You're going to get many times more money than you would get by just taking a refund. And if you leave your money at ACERA, like I said when I was talking about option A, it's totally safe. There's no risk, and we keep paying interest on top of it. So that's just my little spiel for being very careful about taking option C, because in many cases, you do not come out ahead if you're trying to go do something else with your money. But that's, that is up for. I mean, you have the ability to do these calculations yourself. If you want to do the pros and cons of taking a refund or not, I recommend sitting down with some scratch paper and like making a pro and con list. Okay, so making a retirement planning picture. Let's talk about that. This is our last major topic, and this will bleed into the 457B discussion. You already saw this slide about retirement, maintaining your standard of living in retirement. Okay, so just to revisit this, financial planners will say that you're going to need 80% in retirement. You're going to need to be bringing in as income 80% of what you were making as a working employee in order to maintain your standard of living. And you do that through various sources of retirement income. So what you're seeing here is a list of possible sources of income. One is your ACERA monthly pension, or if you belong to a reciprocal agency or just any other, you earned a pension somewhere else, you could kind of lump that in here, your pensions. Also, Social Security. If you're not a safety member, you are going to get to collect Social Security one day. Or if you are a safety member and you've already earned enough credit in the Social Security system through different employment, you will get to collect Social Security one day. So that's another source of income. There's also your savings and investments. And anything that is not your pension or Social Security is going to be your personal savings and investments. Now, you may be able to get to 80% income replacement through just your pension and Social Security alone. Or sometimes people can even do it just from the ACERA pension. But since you're a new employee or you're in your mid-career, and that might be a ways away, like how do you figure out whether you're going to get there, whether you can do it through your Sarah pension alone or the combination of a Sarah pension and Social Security? Do you have to save additional money? And if so, how much? How do you figure this out? Well, let me show you how to figure this out. It's actually not that complicated. The first thing that you're going to use basically online calculators, online estimators to do all three of these things. So you don't really have to get out. I mean, you don't have to, get out your pencil and paper and do this by hand. Um, you're going to use online calculators to get estimates for each of these three things. And then you can use one to get an estimate of whether you need to save additional money. So the first step is to get your Sarah estimate, like I showed you how to do with our benefit estimating tool. You log into your account and you get the Sarah estimate. And if you want to, one of the things that you can do is you can get out scratch paper and just kind of keep track of the numbers that you're plugging into the estimator to make sure that you're doing a plausible retirement scenario. So to get your Sarah estimate, you go to our website, you log into your account, you click estimate a benefit, you put in your plausible retirement scenario, you end up with this benefit estimate right here, this PDF. And it will give you a dollar amount that is your estimate of what you can expect should you retire based on the scenario that you've plugged into the estimator. This is what you can expect to receive every month for the rest of your life. Okay. So you have that estimate. You could write it on scratch paper. You can just hit print on the estimate, or you can just save it in a folder on your device. Now you're going to do a very similar thing over at Social Security's website. You go out to ssa.gov/estimator. You you log into your account there. It's very similar. You plug in some information, and they will give you a benefit estimate that looks kind of like this from what you can expect to receive from Social Security at various Social Security retirement ages. You will have the option of retiring from Social Security and collecting a benefit at various ages starting at age 62, which is the earliest you can do. And so your estimate will give you something like this. It'll show you what you would get at age 62 and then two other ages, maybe 67 and 70. And so you can save that in the same place as your Sarah estimate. Okay. So now you have a dollar projection on how much income you can expect from your Sarah pension and from your Social Security in retirement. And so if your projection for your Sarah estimate is younger than age 62, you're just going to want to be cognizant of the fact that you're not going to get to collect Social Security until age 62 at the earliest. So just keep that in mind. Also, if you have other pensions, you would just want to go ahead and get estimates from their systems and add that all in here. Okay. What I'm going to show you now is how to figure out whether these dollar amounts are adequate to get you to that 80% income replacement, or whether you need to save more money and how much. And what we're going to do is use a retirement calculator out on the internet. There's a whole bunch of different ones. If you Google retirement calculator, all these different like investment platforms give you these free calculators. So I recommend trying a few of them out. They'll give you kind of different numbers, but they will help you figure out how much additional to save. And the reason they're giving you the calculator for free is because they want you to then invest with them to save that extra money. But you don't have to do that. You can just use their calculator for free. I'm going to show you what the Vanguard calculator looks like, just to give you an example of like how to think about this. I do highly recommend, if you have a 457B account, or if Gene Hilliard, when he starts talking in about 10 to 15 minutes, convinces you to start a 457B account, you can use the Empower Retirement Calculator in your deferred compensation online account, and it will do a very similar job as these publicly available calculators, and it's probably a little bit more powerful and get you a little bit better idea of that trajectory. So I highly recommend using that calculator. This is just a screenshot, but what I'm going to do is I'll just go out and show you a live example of how to use the Vanguard calculator. Okay, so you go to acera.org. Under members, there's this planning your future retirement income section of the website. Now, this is a step-by-step process to get pointed in this 80% or more income replacement trajectory. Gene Hilliard from the 457B plan is actually going to try to get you pointed at 100%. But we'll just do 80% right now, and then I'll let him tell you how to get to 100%. So this is a step-by-step process. I'm giving you like a 5-minute demo, but if you want to take a little bit of time out and do this on your own, this has all the links to do all this stuff. So it has a link to log into your account to get that acera benefit estimate, and it walks you through that. It talks about the income replacement that you might need. It has a link out to the Social Security estimator, and then information about when you can collect Social Security. There are links to a few of the internet calculators like the Vanguard calculator that I'm going to show you, and there's a link to the Empower calculator if you sign up for the 457B plan. So I'm going to click on the Vanguard calculator. So what I'm doing here is I am making I'm viewing I'm looking into, I'm getting a little window into the future. Okay, I'm making some projections about the future, but I'm making an educated projection because I already have projections on how much income I can expect from acera and how much from my acera pension and how much income I can expect from Social Security. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm using this calculator to determine if that's adequate to get me to the 80%, and if not, how much additional I need to save. So I'm going to put in a retirement scenario here. Let's say I'm going to do a fictional person. Let's say that I'm 30 years old. And let's say that I want to see what happens if I retire at age 62. And in this case, I will be able to collect the Social Security retirement at age 62 and the acera pension at age 62. Okay, and let's say salary-wise, so that I make $70,000 per year. Okay, and you just plug in whatever numbers pertain to your situation. Okay, this is asking for how much you save annually currently. Let's say that I save 0 annually. I don't save anything already. That's totally fine if you don't save anything already. So I'm just going to leave that blank. Okay, then this is asking you what you currently have saved. Okay. So let's say, actually, let's also leave that at 0. Let's say I have no retirement savings additionally whatsoever. And that many people are in that scenario. That's totally fine. Because you're a new employee or you're in the middle of your career, and we're gonna get you pointed in the direction that you need to get pointed in right now. Okay, so this right here is the income replacement percentage that you want to target. Now you can put in, I recommend putting something here between 80 and 100%. I'm going to put 80% just to keep it simple. But you can do 80 or 100% if you want to target a higher income replacement number. Okay, so this percentage right here is the expected annual return. Now, what I recommend putting in here, what I usually say is some number between 2 and 7%. Because traditionally, it was pretty easy to find some very safe long-term investments that had very little risk that would earn you almost a guaranteed 2%. These days, you can actually find some high interest savings accounts that will earn you 5% a year. for the time being. That could change rapidly once they change, interest rates in the country. But you could also find some CDs these days for 5%, which are certificates of deposits from banks. Those have zero risk. Um, so you probably want to have something in here between 5 and 7% right now. I'll just put in 6% just to be kind of conservative. Now, the higher the percent, what this is the idea with this percentage is that you're taking your extra savings, your extra money that you want to save for retirement, and you are putting it somewhere that has the potential to earn this much interest. And usually, if you're taking your money and you're putting it into a diverse portfolio that has both like stocks and bonds. And when I say stocks, what I really mean is like index funds and mutual funds where you are investing in like 1,000 stocks at a time by buying a share of an index fund. Um, Over long periods of time, what is the most likely thing that will happen based on our past history of modern markets is that um, you will be able to achieve uh, pretty a you will likely achieve probably somewhere in the nature of 7%. Like that's what the past has looked like. Of course, the future doesn't necessarily mean, it's not going to do the same thing as the past, but the traditional view of this is that if you leave your money in the market over long periods of time through the power of compound interest, um, your uh, there will be some market ups and downs, but over the long term, the market goes up. And if you leave it in for like a 30-year period and you look at how much you're earning annually, um, you will tend to earn somewhere, in this neighborhood, based on the past. So that's why I say somewhere between 5 and 7%. Okay. But, you can do more research on that, like the potential to earn higher returns. Generally, what they say is the higher the percentage, the potential for a percentage, the more risk that you're taking with your money. Gene Hilliard, when he talks about the 457B plan, is going to be talking about places where you can park your money on a tax-deferred basis and like very easily mitigate your risk, so that you are uh, putting your money in a very diverse portfolio, and you don't have to think about it. Okay, so what I'm going to do to continue this is that I'm going to put in the estimate from Social Security that I got for age 62, which was about $1,700. I'm going to put in the estimate that I got from the Acera pension, which was about 2,200. Okay. I'm going to hit calculate. What this is showing me, based on all of the numbers that I put in here, is how much it's projecting I'm going to need in retirement per month to pay my expenses, based on this income replacement idea. And then what it's showing me over here in the green bars is how much income it projects I'm going to have based on how much I'm going to get from Acera and from Social Security. The light green represents Acera, the dark green represents Social Security. And you can see that there's a gap here. Like I'm not going to have enough income to pay for my life. And so if that's the case, I'm probably going to want to start saving some more money now. So what happens if I save an additional $400 a year? I type that in and hit recalculate. Well, the graph didn't change much. So what happens if I go up to like 6,000 per year, which would represent about 8.6% of my salary? Okay, I overshot it. So I am now um, projected to have a higher income than I will need, which is okay if you want to leave it at that. It's, doesn't necessarily hurt to save more money than you need. But what happens if I want to hit it exactly? Because maybe I don't have, a lot of additional income to save. So I just want to target it exactly. Okay, so I'm going to see what happens with 4,000. Not quite. So now there's a gap again. So now I'm going to do 4,400. See what happens. Okay, that's about it exactly. So what this is saying is in this scenario where I'm going to work, 32 years, this is my current salary. If I want to achieve 80% income replacement and I'm going to put my extra savings somewhere where I'm expecting a 6% return annually. And this is how much I project to get from Social Security. And this is how much I project to get from a Sarah. I will need to save $4,400 a year. And when it comes time to start paying for my life in retirement, when I retire, I will have about exactly how much I'll need. And so $4,400 a year, maybe that sounds like a lot. Let's see what happens if I split that up over 26 pay periods. Well, it's $169 a pay period. So maybe I can find $169 extra per pay period to save. Or maybe I can't at this point. Maybe I can only find $50 to save extra per pay period. That's totally fine. What I recommend doing is like not stressing out about this, and you just save what you can, and you get pointed in a direction of additional savings. You get used to this idea of putting away a little money and saving an additional amount of money. So maybe you're not pointed at 80% right now, but then you come back next year. What I recommend is you do the calculator again. 6 months from now, a year from now, maybe you can save a little more. Maybe you bump it up. It might tell you a little bit different number. So then you try to save that money. You do the calculator again a year later, and you just keep making adjustments. And you will find that over time, by the time you get to retire, you will, as long as you keep pointing yourself back in this direction of the income replacement that you need, you will find that the likelihood is that you will have achieved the income replacement that you are seeking that will help you pay for your life in retirement and maintain your standard of living. So like I said, it's not that complicated. You just use the estimators and the calculators and just, put a little money aside. Um, in the 457B plan is a great place to do it. Um, and then there's a few more slides here, but I want to actually turn it over to the expert right now, who is the expert in doing this additional savings. So I'll let you go through these few slides on your own. It just talks a little bit about parking your money somewhere you can earn interest and the power of compound interest, being cautious with your investment risk, um, and the higher potential for return, the higher the risk is what they always say. Um, and really not like doing research on normal places to put your money where you can, like you're putting it in a diverse portfolio and you're mitigating your risk. Like I recommend doing research on sites like NerdWallet and Investopedia. They give you pretty typical advice on how to invest in like index funds and like how to really diversify and put your money in like normal places like the 457B plan. Um, and I say normal places because I've heard stories of people who have some relative that has this investment guru that they know, and they put all their money with this guy, and this guy earns these amazing returns, like it's more than average. It's like 10%, 12%. Sometimes they'll even say it's like guaranteed. And the most likely scenario is that person is a scam artist running a Ponzi scheme, and like your money is just going to disappear. So I highly recommend just, doing a little due diligence, using the tools of the internet and Google and NerdWallet and Investopedia, and getting some advice from the experts who know how to do this. Like if you want help and you sign up for the 457B plan, you can actually talk to the financial planners there for free as many times as you want. Um, So that's my spiel leading into the 457B presentation. If you want, like I said, that step-by-step article on saving more money and getting pointed in that 80% trajectory, that's out at acera.org/planning. And there is more information there about signing up for the 457B plan. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Gene Hilliard, who is the expert on investments, because what I have described to you is like the uh, entire breadth of my knowledge about this. I'm not an expert in this, but I will turn it over to the expert at this point. So, Gene, are you there?
I am here. How's it going, Mike?
Going really good. How are
Good,
you?
good. All right. Outstanding. Let's see. Share, grab my presentation here. All right. Slideshow. All right. How does that look, Mike?
Oh, we're seeing your notes.
One day I'm going to get this right. Swap. There we go.
There we go. Yep.
All
All
right.
right, take it
Perfect.
away.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, or is it morning? Good morning, everyone. My name is Gene Hilliard. I'm Vice President, Financial Advisor of Emerge Financial Group. We're a financial services company in Oakland. We help our clients with financial planning. We do taxes. We do accounting for small businesses. So it's a pleasure and an honor to speak with you guys today. A little bit about my background. I've been a licensed financial consultant slash stockbroker for 20 years, helping my clients create wealth and maintain that wealth throughout their lifetime and the lifetime of their kids and grandkids. I'm also a retirement counselor, and my goal as a retirement counselor is to help each and every one of you maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. What exactly does that mean? My goal is to the exact same paycheck you're getting today, roughly. I want you to get the same paycheck when you're in your 60s, right? You guys all work for Alameda County, great government agency, one of the last companies or agencies that still offer a pension. So if you stay with the county any significant amount of time, 20 plus years, give or take, you're probably going to get about half your salary. So you got half your salary for the rest of your life. Now it's about how do we cover that other half, that other 50%. And one of the best ways to make that happen is through deferred comp. Okay. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about deferred comp and plan overview. And it should take me roughly 20-30 minutes. And then we'll answer some questions at the end. I also wanted to mention that my firm was hired roughly 15 years ago by Prudential Retirement at the time, now Empower Retirement. So we were hired to help with financial retirement planning and retirement guidance, okay, to county employees. Now, I'm not an Empower employee, so I just think it's important to mention that I have my own firm, but I'm a subcontractor of Empower. Okay, so I just wanted to full disclosure, just let you guys in on that. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, Empower, they are a partner of Alameda County. They are considered the third party administrator. They help with financial planning tools on their website. They send out statements on their website. They also assist myself in helping you retire with comfort and dignity when you're in your 60s, 70s. Okay. Here's some of the areas I'm going to cover throughout the presentation. As I mentioned earlier, deferred comp is, you use that in conjunction with ACERA. So I'm going to talk a little, and Social Security. So we'll briefly touch on that. I'll touch on the fact that money comes out of your paycheck automatically. We'll talk about the tax deferred savings. We'll talk a little bit about the investments, consolidating other retirement plans. Say you've worked for a different government agency. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about catch-up contributions and the loan feature. Okay. So when you're thinking about retirement, it's important to have some sort of a goal. What is the end result? What is the goal that you're trying to accomplish in retirement? Is it traveling? Do you want to travel to different countries in the world? Right? How much is that going to cost? Are you looking to spend more time with family and friends? Maybe you have family in Georgia, Texas, New York. Maybe you want to kind of fly around the country and visit with family. Are you going to have a vacation home somewhere where you're kind of going back and forth, right? And when you're thinking about or pursuing your future that you imagine, it's important to see if you can put that into dollars. It's going to cost me $200,000 to travel from country to country in retirement. So I need to save 200. I'm just making up that number, but you get the point. It's important that you have some sort of a goal at the end. What is the amount of nest egg that you're going to need to be comfortable in retirement? Now, I know earlier I talked about, my goal is to help you get to 100%, but the truth is most people don't need 100%. Most financial planners will tell you need roughly 70 to 90% of your pre-retirement income. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, Gene, why not 100%? And I just want to make sure that you're aware that there are some costs that go away in retirement where you don't need 100%. For example, do you have to continue to pay into Social Security when you're retired? So Social Security tax goes away, right? Unless, of course, you're going to get another job working after you retire. But if you're going to retire, and you're just living off your deferred comp or you're living off your SERA, there's no Social Security tax. Number two, do you have to continue to pay into a SERA? Look at your paycheck. Your paycheck will say, I'm a tier 2 employee or tier 1, tier 4, and it's going to show you exactly how much is coming out of your paycheck. And it's a big chunk, but that's going to go away. So there's some cost that's going to go away. So you don't necessarily need 100% of your pre-retirement income. Okay. Now, where specifically will your income come from? Well, obviously, if you're old enough to collect Social Security and you've paid into Social Security, and that's something I quickly bring up. Some people assume, well, if I'm in a government agency, that means my Social Security is going to be cut on some level. Right. And that may or may not be the case. If you've had a government job where you've paid into Social Security the entire time, then you don't have to worry about any Social Security cuts. But if you've had a government job, for example, you've worked as a safety member, you're a sheriff deputy, those folks don't pay into Social Security. So therefore, their Social Security, if they get any, may be affected. All right, where else will you get your income from? Well, your pension from a SERA. Retirement plans. If you have deferred comp, a 401k, 403b at a different institution, you may get some income there. Maybe you've put some money away and bought investment property, so you may live off of that. Some of you may want to continue to work, doing something you love, not necessarily working because you have to, but you're doing it because maybe it's just something you enjoy doing. You want to stay busy, so you may get some income from those areas. So these are the different buckets where you may receive retirement income. Deferred comp is easy in terms of investing in it. If you're already in the plan, you already know money comes directly out of your paycheck and it's invested. So when you don't see it, you don't miss it, you don't spend it. How much should a person save towards retirement? Well, in many cases, most financial professionals will say you probably need to save between 10 and 15% of your pay. That may or may not make sense for you and your family, right? But at the end of the day, in my view, you got to start with something, 5%. Even if it's $100 a paycheck, start with something and then just build on that over time. Now, there are two tax advantaged ways of investing in deferred comp. You can invest pre-tax. That reduces your taxable income. So as you put money into the account, you get a tax break and it grows tax deferred. You will have to pay some level of taxes in the future when you retire. But in many cases, you may find yourself in a lower tax bracket in retirement. So the pre-tax version would make sense. But if you believe that potentially you're going to be in a higher tax bracket in the future, right? Maybe you anticipate inheriting property or financial assets from your parents that could potentially push you in a higher tax bracket in the future, then maybe the Roth version of deferred comp works for you. So you're putting money into the account, you're paying the taxes, but the money grows tax free. Hypothetically, they say you put $100,000 over your career in the Roth. It's not a Roth IRA, it's a Roth 457. So you put $100,000 in the Roth deferred comp, it grew to $500,000. That means you have a $400,000 gain that is tax free to you. Now, it is only tax free to you if you're at least 59 and a half at the time that you're withdrawing and the account's been open for at least 5 years. The 5 years is probably going to be easy, but whether or not you'll be 59 and a half when you retire remains to be seen. There are some sheriff deputies that can retire at 50, 55. Now, if they were to invest in the Roth, then they may not be able to take full advantage of the non-tax in the future, unless, of course, they wait until they're 59 and a half before they touch the account. Side-by-side comparison when it comes to pre-tax versus the Roth, I touched on that a little bit earlier. If you invest pre-tax, it lowers your taxable income. You'll pay the taxes in the future. If you invest in the Roth, you're paying taxes up front. Your paycheck's going to be taxed, and your paycheck's going to, you're going to pay. So if you're investing, I don't know, let's say $500 a paycheck into deferred comp, and then you're investing in the Roth, figure your paycheck's going to change by like $500. Going back to the pre-tax, if you were to do $500 in deferred comp pre-tax, your paycheck will probably change somewhere in the neighborhood of 400, 350, 375, somewhere in there, depending on your tax rate and your tax situation. Okay. Mike touched on the power and the beauty of compounding. It's a pretty simple process. As you're putting money into deferred comp, it's earning interest. And then the following year, the money that you put into deferred comp plus the interest earns interest, right? So that's how you can take full advantage of the power of compounding, and that your money will work much, much harder for you. Okay. So that's one of the beauties of investing in deferred comp, especially pre-tax. All right, now let's talk about contribution rates. If you are under 50, the IRS will allow you to put away $23,000 a year as a max. So $23,000. If you're 50 and over, you feel like you're behind the 8 ball in terms of saving towards retirement, the IRS is giving you the opportunity to put in an additional $7,500, bringing your total to $30,000. Okay. There's also, if you're really interested in supercharging your retirement, there is something that's called the 3-year special catch-up, or the 457 catch-up, where you can put in $46,000 a year for 3 years. Right? That's called but you have to qualify. You have to be at least 54 and a half to participate. But, just reach out to me. I can point you in the right direction to the people who could confirm or at least validate that you're eligible for this 3-year catch-up. So reach out to me and I can give you some more details about that if you're interested. I always talk about it's important to save as early as possible, so you don't have to play catch up, because I promise you, if you're not saving the way you should early on in your career, you're going to eventually come to me. You're going to be 50. That's the magic age where people get a little stressed out and they start really, really focusing and concentrating on retirement. You're 50. So that means you're only going to have roughly 10 to 15 years to save, when you could have been saving for 20, 30 years. So here's kind of an example of why it's important to start early. Here's a person who's 25 years old. They came to me and say, Gene, I want to retire comfortably What do you suggest? This is just a hypothetical. This particular person, I encourage them to put away $300 a month. They want to retire at age 65. So in 40 years, they're looking at a balance of $575,000. Okay, pretty significant amount that's invested and saved, and a nest egg that you have access to. Now, this is assuming an average 6% rate of return over the last 40 years. So that's a very conservative number. Here's another hypothetical person who's 35 years old. Because they've waited to save towards retirement, it's going to cost you a little bit. So this person, I'm encouraging to put in $500 a month. They too want to retire at age 65. So in 30 years, this person has 490 roughly. And then here's another example of a person who's 45, putting away $1,000 a month for the next 20 years. You're looking at $455,000. So the point of this slide is, yes, we want you to start as soon as possible to get the most bang for your buck, but also keep in mind, if you're starting later in life, it's not too late. I'm not suggesting at all it's too late if you're 50 or 55 to save. You can still save. I'm just saying you may or may not have a balance like a person who started when they were in their 20s. Okay. I'm sure some of you probably came from another government agency. Maybe you've decided to get out of the private sector and go into the public sector, and you have a 401k, 403b, another 457 plan somewhere that's maybe not earning a whole lot in terms of interest. You can roll that money into deferred comp. Reach out to me and I'll give you details on how to make that happen if you're interested. Once you leave county service, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the distribution options. Once you leave county service, you have access to your money at any age. This is not a 401k where you have to wait until you're 59 and a half. You don't have to wait. You can access your money immediately. You probably are going to have to pay taxes on it, right? So I just want to make sure people are aware of that. So if you want to retire at 58, you can, and then start tapping into your deferred comp. Or you just want to leave county service. Maybe you want to start another career someplace else, but you need a cushion. You need a few months to hold you over till you get your next job. Well, you can use deferred comp for that. Okay, I just want to make sure folks were aware of that. Understand also that if you're ever in a pinch and you need access to cash, to, I don't know, you want to buy your first home, you want to pay for your kids' education, you have access to borrowing against your deferred comp. You can take out 50% or $50,000, whichever is less. You're lending money to yourself, you're paying yourself back with interest. Okay, so just the point here is that if you're ever in a pinch and you need access to cash, you can borrow from your deferred comp. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the investments. What kind of investor are you? Are you the type of person that wants to do your own homework and pick your own funds? You can do that. Knock yourself out, right? There's nothing to preclude you from doing that. But most of you probably are going to need some help. And I'm going to talk a little bit about where you can go to get some help in terms of your investments. So if you're a do-it-myself investor, I encourage you to do your homework. Go onto AlamedaCountyDCP.com, go to the investment tab to see the investments that are available to you. There's roughly 14, here they are, roughly 14, 15 investments that are available in deferred comp. If you're not a risk taker, there's the Alameda County Stable Value Fund, no risk there. If you're an index fund investor, you like the Vanguards of the world, there are index funds in here as well. Okay. If you are the type of person that's interested in socially responsible funds, there's investments in here for you. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, do your homework, look at the fees, because I'm going to talk a little bit about fees, but there is a cost structure within each of these mutual funds. You want to pay attention to performance. How did this fund perform, say, in 2008? At least you'll know that's worst case scenario. Okay. You want to take a look at how long the manager has been managing this fund. That's a good touch point to pay attention to in order to make an informed decision. So do your homework. You can pick your funds, and then you can kind of go from there. But if you're the type of person that needs some help, there's an asset allocation tool called GoalMaker, right? Basically, you tell us what your investor profile is. You're conservative, moderate, aggressive. You tell us approximately what year you plan on retiring, right? So if you plan on retiring in, say, for example, 2035, then there's an investment perfect for a person that's going to retire at 3035 or 2040. Did I say 30? 2040, 2035, what have you. Just kind of take a peek at the fund that matches when you anticipate retiring. Okay, let's talk a little bit about fees and expenses. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There is a cost structure associated with deferred comp. Expense ratio, that is the internal charge of each mutual fund. Some are higher or lower than others. If you are investing in, say, a passive investment strategy, like, for example, Fidelity 500 Index or Fidelity Small Cap Index, anytime it says index, you know that that's a passive investment. And passive investments in deferred comp is going to cost you 0.01% per year. So very little, 0.01% per year. Okay. Active investing is where you're paying a manager. You're paying for the expertise. They're buying and selling stock, bonds on your behalf. So it's going to cost you a little bit more. Expect to pay somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.50% to 1% on a active investment strategy. Okay. The other thing I didn't mention here is that to participate in deferred comp, the county charges 0.20% per year. Okay, so at a minimum figure, you're going to be paying 0.20% per year. So if you do the math, say you have an investment of $10,000, you take $10,000 times 0.20%, do the math, I think that comes out to $20 a year. Okay, so not a whole heck of a lot. So I just want to make sure folks were aware of that. So how did I do? These were the areas that I wanted to cover. I talked about tax deferred savings. I talked about the investments, consolidating. I talked about the catch-up provision, the one where if you're 50 and over, you can put away $30,500 a year, or the 3-year catch-up of $46,000. And I talked a little bit about the loan feature as well. So what is next? If you're not in the plan, I encourage you to sign up. Log on to treasurer.acgov.org, treasurer.acgov.org. Click on the deferred compensation tab and then print the form. Okay, it's a pretty long form. If you need some assistance with completing the form, let me know. Already in the plan. If that's the case, I would encourage you to increase the amount of money that you're contributing to deferred comp. So to do that, just go back to treasurer.acgov.org, click on deferred comp, and then click on payroll modification. Okay, payroll modification to increase the amount of money that's going into deferred comp. If you ever need to speak with someone at Empower for whatever reason, here's the number, 855-969-4572. They're open on weekdays from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. And they're also open on Saturdays. Okay, so if you ever need help on the weekend, or at least on a Saturday, give them a call. They're going to be available to you. There are 3 financial consultants that are here to help. There's Mark Tomei on the left with Wells Fargo Advisors, Jason Brummett on the right with Empower Retirement, and myself in the middle. So it'll be our pleasure and honor to help you in anything you need in terms of retirement planning, investment planning, financial planning. There's no additional charge to chat with us. So give us a call. Okay. So with that, I'd love to entertain questions.